Hello everyone, you're welcome to Biology Video Lecture Series by Akerele Oladimeji Philip. I am going to be taking you on some video lectures of different topics, and the first one we will be talking about is going to be taxonomy. But before then, I want you to please take note of the following tips that will help us have a nice time together. Okay, taxonomy, as it were, has to do with classification of living things. And when I mean classify, it means that you put organisms that have things in common into the same category. And I will say at this juncture to say that this is a crash program. We might not talk about everything, but we make sure we touch some things that can help you in your examinations. So classification could be in two categories: nomenclature, which means we are giving names to living things, and the names are meant to be two, basically the generic name and the specific name, and these names are meant to be written in italics. And the second category under taxonomy is systemics, putting organisms, grouping them into groups based on what they have in common. Sorry, this is a typographical error. It's meant to be into. Alright, thank you for that. So basically that's what we can say. Now moving on. Originally, a man called Carolus Linnaeus, which is a Swedish scientist, felt we only have two kingdoms of living things, plants and animals. And after some time, another scientist called Whittaker felt, and for some, we need to prove that we have 5 kingdoms of living things, and this has been the major kingdoms of living things in most O-level textbooks. But going a bit further, we found out that we have more than that. That there is another man called Carl Woese, which championed the splitting of bacteria into 2 kingdoms for a total of 6 kingdoms. So now, if you look at, there's something called hierarchy of classification. That is kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus, species. However, there's a higher thing other than kingdom called domain. Some books will call it supra kingdom. Now, so we have actually 3 domain. Domain is higher than kingdom. Alright, so domain bacteria. This is a bit advanced, but I think you should know it. It's not too advanced than what you should know. Now, so bacteria is a domain. All those 3 colored, these ones in red are domain. So this domain consists of a kingdom called Eubacteria. This domain Archaea consists of a kingdom called Archaebacteria, and the Eukarya, which consists of 4 kingdoms. So that means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want to arrange them in order of complexity, from the simplest to the most complex, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means this is the simplest, followed by this, while this is the most complex. Alright, moving on. So there's a diagram here that just explain a little of what we just said. Don't worry, I'll still go in total, but just feel free at any point to pause the video to see what is written in each of the slides. So if you need to write things down, or you need to probably pause to write what I'm saying now. So now you can see different, you can see from here, these are the 6 kingdoms of living things based on 3 domains. Alright, so this very one here is, you can see, is from the simplest to a bit complex, a bit complex, a bit complex, a bit complex. They are most complex. which is the last one here. So you can just pause the video here to see. I'm still going to explain more, but for the sake of this class, we are going to be focusing majorly on these 5 kingdoms, because this video is mainly tailored towards O-level examinations. All right, and that includes the likes of JAM, GCE, or WAEC, and the likes. All right, so now looking at these 5 kingdoms, now what I did was that I was able to, over time, to bring up an acronym, more profile plan, which is MO for Monera, and PRO for Protista, FU for fungi, PL is for planted, and AN is for Animalia. So pronouncing it together as a word, that is more profile plan. All right, it is always important to know it this way, because this is going from Monera to Animalia explains their order of complexity. So every example here are believed to be less complex compared to this, less complex compared to this, less complex compared to this, then less complex compared to this. So that means from here downward we have increasing complexity. All right, now I want to say that these kingdoms, I mean the 5 of them that we're focusing on, this first kingdom is called prokaryotes. That's another classification, and that classification is based on if their nucleus is totally, I mean, put in, let me look for the right word, if their nucleus have a definite membrane. Yes, if their genetic material is put in a membrane or not. So if it is not in a membrane, we call those ones prokaryotes, and organisms in Kingdom are called prokaryotes because their nucleus, or their nuclear material, I mean to say, or let me say genetic material, is not found in a nucleus. That means, because normally nucleus contains genetic material, and what are those? RNA and DNA. All right, but for Monera, their own DNA or RNA, as the case may be, is not found in a nucleus. So let's look at this slide to explain that further. Now, this is a prokaryotic cell, this is an eukaryotic cell. So what I'm saying is, in essence, is that, let's go back a bit, is that kingdom Monera is a prokaryote, kingdom Protista, fungi, plantae, and Animalia are all eukaryotes. All right, so the first kingdom is prokaryote. The other 4 kingdoms are eukaryotes. So looking at this closely, you can see that we picked one of the examples of prokaryotes, which is a bacterium, I beg your pardon. And this is a cell of an animal. This is an animal cell, which is an example of an eukaryote. So looking at this is the nucleoid. Nucleoid is the zone or the area whereby the genetic material is found. So the DNA here is just found in the cytoplasm, but that region is given a name called nucleoid. Compared to the eukaryote here has what we call, you can see here, has a nucleus. All right, see the nucleus here. So the DNA is found within the nucleus. So we say this have a definite membrane, and while this does not. All right, so the basic comparison between the other differences they have. All right, but the major one is the fact that this one has genetic material in the cytoplasm, and that area is called nucleoid, while for eukaryotes the genetic material is found in a structure called nucleus. All right, so this next slide helps to explain some things. Now, looking at this, you can just pause the video here to study this diagram. You see that what we have here, this is a Venn diagram. What we have here is explaining everything they have in common. All right, or things they could have in common. All right, But this one talks about the only things that are peculiar to eukaryotes, the only things that are peculiar to prokaryotes. Alright, now this cell division is this. So the cell division in eukaryote is referred to as mitosis, while cell division in prokaryote is referred to as binary fission. Now I'll still explain more. Let's go back a bit. Let me see if I can show you something from this diagram. Okay, I think we are like that diagram should show that. Okay, yes, there's something I want to call your attention to. In prokaryotes, which is kingdom Monera, they have two types of DNA. The normal DNA here in this area called nuclear region, and another one called plasmid. So if you see in question that what is plasmid, plasmid is a circular DNA found in prokaryotes or kingdom Monera. What's the significance? It gives bacterium or bacteria plural resistance against antibiotics. So when you use drugs against bacteria, the plasmid here helps them to resist how the antibiotic works. Alright, now moving on. This is types of bacteria based on shape. Please bear that in mind. I said based on shape because we have types of bacteria based on staining. That's why we have gram positive, gram negative. That one is based on that's a bit advanced. All right, but this one is based on shape. Now bacteria that are spherical in shape are called coccus, which is cocci plural. Now, and the ones that are rod shape are called bacillus singular, bacilli plural. The ones that are comma shape are called vibrio, and the ones that are spiral in shape majorly are called spirochaete or say spirala. Now spirala, that's plural, or spiralium, which is singular. Now I will not explain all of it, I'll just say some few things. Anytime you see the word staph, that means mass. So when you say staphylococci, that is mass of spherically shaped bacteria. Alright, so when you say tetrad, that's just 4. So when you say strep, strep means chain. So when you say streptococci, bacteria that are formed, let me put this way, spherically shaped bacteria that forms a chain. So streptococci chain, staphylococci, you can say that is mass. Diplococci, that means they are in two, when they encapsulated, that means there's something around it, something around them. Alright, then the same thing still holds. You can see diplo, 2 bacilli, 2 rod shape. Strepto, that means they are forming a straight chain. Alright, so you can pause the video to actually write those things down, but you can see the major one I'm focusing on is cocci, bacilli, vibrio, and spirochaete. Alright, so these are different types of bacteria based on their shape. Alright, now I feel I should go back to explain something in this video. In this slide, the capsule you are seeing here is majorly used in bacteria to hold on to surfaces or to hold on to each other. On the surface of our teeth, when it's not properly washed or washed properly, there's some bacteria that stays in the mouth. One of them is staphylococcus salivarius. It stays there normally. Now bacteria use this capsule to attach themselves to the surface of the teeth, and if we don't keep our mouths washed all the time properly, they can have dirt in the mouth, and when dirt is in the mouth, when dirt is added to this bacteria, they attach themselves to the dirt, then to the teeth, to form a structure called plaque. That's why some people have some hard substance around their mouth. So the long and short of the story here is that the capsule is used for bacteria to attach themselves together or to attach themselves to the substrate. In this case, let's say teeth or any other place where they are found. Moving on. So we are done with kingdom Monera. We are moving to kingdom Protista. Now, kingdom Protista, this is one of them. Now, like I said earlier on, this video is a crash program. I'll just be touching some few things, show you some diagram, get you familiarized with some structures. There's a lot of points I might not mention, but just to bring you to it's a crash program. If you've read, it's just to brush up some of those things, remind you of some things you might have probably taken your mind off. So moving on, kingdom Protista. This is an example, and kingdom Protista is divided into other divisions. One of them is, okay, let me put this way, we have what we call division, I don't want to say division, a class, or let me say a category called protozoa. All right, protozoa talks about proto from the word protista or protist. Then zoa has to do with animals, they can move. Now, because they use flagellum to move, we call them flagellates. Please pay attention to that. So, and this is Euglena. Now, Euglena is one special protist because it has animal and plant characteristics. Alright, now the animal characteristics here is the fact that it has flagellum for swimming, it has high spot, it has gullet. It's not showing this diagram. I think the next diagram will show that. Those are animal characteristics. It also have chloroplast, so it can photosynthesize. So it has animal and plant characteristics. I beg your pardon, sorry, characteristics. And it also have what's it called, it stores food in the form of starch granules. So it's only plants that stores starch as their food. So Euglena is a special kind of organism that has some plant and animal characteristics. All right, so this is a flagellate because it uses flagellum to swim. Why is it called protozoa? Because it can move. This is another diagram of Euglena. You can pause the video to get a glimpse of that. All right, okay. Now, moving on. This is another protozoa. Like I told you, protozoa means it can move. So in this case here, this is a ciliate because it uses cilia to move, and this is paramecium. All right, so just you can pause the video to take note of the parts, because sometimes questions can have it that you will just be given the diagram, then be given, okay, this can called A, B, C. They are asked to label what it is or mention what it is. Sometimes ask you for what the function of that part is. Now, moving on. This is still under kingdom Protista. This one is Protophyta. Proto from the word Protista, then the phyta comes from the plant-like. So this is a pure plant-like protist. However, it also has a plant-like characteristics. Why do I say that? Because it also have chloroplast and also flagellum. So it's just like Euglena. For some reasons I can't really mention in this video, is regarded as a plant-like protist. So you can pause the video to take note of the parts. All right, moving on. So we are done with protist. We are moving to fungi. Moving on, this is kingdom fungi. What are fungi? These are organisms that cannot photosynthesize. Why? Because they don't have chlorophyll. They are funny. They are not plants, or yet they store their food as glycogen, just like animals. Please take note of that. Their cell wall is made up of chitin. just like insects, arthropods. They have different means of reproduction, which could be asexual and sexual. We'll get to see that shortly. And they have a floating body called hypha singular, sorry, hypha plural, hyphae singular. Then they are now divided into the following classes or following phyla. So we have the zygomycetes. Some book we call it the zygomycota. So this will be COTA. So if you see that in your textbook, it means the same thing. So zygomycota or zygomycetes. Example of that is your bread mold. Generally, one thing I want to say is that fungi are referred to as saprophytes. That means they cause things to decay. And how do they do that? They digest food extracellularly, and they will absorb the food through their body externally. So some books refer to them as osmotrophs. Osmo because they suck in things like osmosis. Do you get what I'm saying? So basically speaking, fungi are saprophytes. They digest they cause things to decay. Now when they cause things to decay, they also eat from what they decayed. Alright, so it's not just causing things to decay on its own. Most times they cause carbohydrate kind of food to decay. That's why you see them growing. Most times, I'm not saying all the time. Alright, so I believe you've written those things down. So let's move on. Now, zygomycota or zygomycetes, an example of that is a rhizopus, which grows on bread and carbohydrate food that is getting rotten. Then we have the ascomycetes, which example of that is your microsporum, penicillium, and yeast. Yeast, for some reason, yeast is put here in some textbooks. Some is put under deuteromycetes. Now, yeast, everybody knows that yeast is used by bakers to make bread or flour to rise, because it causes fermentation. It causes the bread to rise because it causes carbon dioxide to be formed in that substance. In this case, bread. It's also used for brewing, where they ferment food, malts and the likes. Alright, so the next one is basidiomycetes, which is the mushroom and the puff balls. Then we have deuteromycetes. However, I'm actually focusing on these three. Yeah, even 5 phyla under this, but I'm not doing all of those. Now, bear in mind that penicillium is of a great economic importance in medicine because it is used to make drugs. All right, because it's been found to be one of the a major antibiotics that can be used in treating some diseases. All right, so I think the next slide shows us some of that. Now, this is mushroom. If you can remember, that is under phylum what? Try to see if you can guess that. You can remember that basidiomycetes. All right, and this is yeast, which is used for fermentation and bread and all that, and making puff and the likes. So that's under what? Ascomycetes. It's multicellular. This is it's unicellular. Beg your pardon. This is multicellular in nature. Now just study this. Some of these diagrams comes out. Now I think the next diagram will explain some of this. I wanted to say on this very slide. Let's move on. Okay, yes. This diagram is very important. Very, very important. Why? Because it explains the part of fungi. This is rhizopus, which is under what? That pause is for you to be able to answer the question. Under phylum Zygomycetes, if you can remember. Can you see that here? That's rhizopus. Yes. So coming back to that. Now the rhizopus grows on bread, and this is how it looks like when it is magnified. Now when it grows, it doesn't have roots. So it uses rhizoid to attach itself to substrate. Substrate is the structure or the substance on which rhizopus grows or a fungi grows. So this structure that holds the fruiting body is called, that holds sporangium. This is sporangium. This is called sporangiophore. You can see that here. So sporangium contains spore. So when this spore lands on another fruiting body, let's say bread, it germinates on it. Now what you are seeing here is sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, please bear that in mind. Now this is done normally, this is what it does normally. But if the condition is not palatable, the environmental condition is harsh, they switch on to sexual reproduction. In the case whereby an hyphae from one fungi, then another hyphae from another fungi comes together to conjugate, then you can see that here. So when they come together, their cell wall breaks in. If I remember that what forms the cell wall, that is this cell is made up of what? Chitin. So when the cell wall breaks, their cytoplasm will join by a process called plasmogamy. After that, the nuclei of the two fungi will join to form by a process called karyogamy. Afterwards, they form a structure called zygospore. You can see that here. Then from the zygospore, another sporangium will grow that contains another sporangiophore will grow that contains sporangium, and within the sporangium the spore will break off and land. So it means that ultimately it must form spore, but if it cannot be done asexually, they will use sexual reproduction. Alright, now I just put this next one. This is penicillium, the antibiotics that is used, just a diagram to show you how it looks like. Alright, now this next slide explains the different life cycles of fungi. This is asexual, this is sexual. You can see here. So the three cycles of sexual reproduction of fungi are in the following order: plasmogamy, karyogamy, and meiosis. Alright, pay attention to that. So now we are moving to kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Plantae is divided into the following divisions: division Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, and Spermatophyta. Remember that it is written in this order to explain the fact that to show from the simplest to the most complex. So that means this is complex compared to this. So this is simple compared to this, simple compared to this, simple compared to this. So this is simplest, this is most complex. Alright. However, remember that they still have their divisions. Yes. Now, the first on the list is Thallophyte, and that is your Spirogyra, which can also be referred to as algae, but in this case green algae. Alright, so there's red and blue-green algae. Those ones, or red algae, those ones are under kingdom Monera. Some are under Protista. So like I said, we are not going so deep. Alright, so this is your Spirogyra. Like I always say, you need to pause the video, make sure you understand and you put this in your head. If you don't know what the name of the thing is, there's no way you can know what it does. So you need to familiarize. So this is a Spirogyra. This another one, this another one. So they form another one. They form a filament. So this Spirogyra here, okay, it has chloroplast. That's why we can call it a plant in the first place. There was a question I saw sometimes ago in IGSC Cambridge that says they drew this diagram and they didn't label. They just put A, Y, and all that around it, and said what structure does it have that makes it to be called, or that makes it to belong to kingdom Plantae. So that will be your spiral chloroplast. Alright, and this Spirogyra also reproduces in two ways. Reproduces by fragmentation, which means it will break off into pieces like that, and it reproduces sexually by conjugation, just the way fungi reproduces, that two FA will come together. In this case, two filaments, one filament will be here and that will be the other side. They will come together, then their contents will meet, plasmogamy, karyogamy, meiosis, then a filament will grow out of the zygospore. Alright, just almost the same way as sexual reproduction in fungi. Alright, moving on. The next on the list is bryophytes. Bryophytes are of two types. We have it has two classes. Class Mossi, which is example is mos singular, and class Hepaticae, other that is your liverworts. These are basically aquatic. These liverworts are basically aquatic, while this one is terrestrial. It grows on rock at back of rock. If you put blocks for some time, this one grows on it. Now the point you want to know here is that they have what we call alternation of generation, a sporophyte generation and a gametophyte generation. For bryophytes, whether moss or liverwort, the dominant generation is your gametophyte, which is this one. So the gametophyte is the structure that contains the gametes. So this is the dominant one in the generation, while sporophyte is not dominant because it is short-lived. That means it doesn't stay long, but the gametophyte stays longer. Please put that to heart. Alright, the next on the list will be pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are more advanced. Why are they more advanced? Because they can reproduce without water. They have xylem and phloem, which is called vascular bundles. They have roots. Let me go back a little bit. These bryophytes don't have roots. They have a structure called rhizoid. They don't have leaf, a true leaf. They don't have stem. Alright, they don't have vascular bundles. So they reproduce only when there's water. What we are seeing here has been magnified severally. They are very, very tiny. So for them to reproduce, the male part, the male organ called antheridium that contains the sperm, will need water for the sperm to swim to a female structure called archegonium. So they are totally dependent on water. Sometimes some questions will put this one and ask which of the bryophytes, pteridophytes, spermatophytes in the structure, and say which of them needs water for reproduction. The answer will be bryophyte, because without water their sperm cell in their pteridium cannot swim. Alright, so let's go back to pteridophyte. So pteridophyte, like I said here, are advanced. In fact, some books will say they are the first to dominate terrestrial habitat because they contain xylem and phloem. So they are bigger. Some of them are epiphytes. If you can, there's some plants called epiphytes, plants that anchor themselves on another structure for growth. They are not parasitic plants, no. They just anchor themselves on structures, whether plants or things. So they still live on their own. Their roots go down to the soil. So these are epiphytes. These are pteridophytes. Now, what you need to know here is that in their own alternation of generation, the sporophytes are dominant. The gametophytes are short-lived. Alright. Moving on. After the pteridophyte, the next one is your spermatophyte. And spermatophytes are seed plants. And we have the gymnosperm and angiosperm. What you are seeing right before you is a gymnosperm. And they are majorly an ornamental plants, and they bear their fruit on a structure called cones, and they have their seed being naked. It's not in ovary, it is naked. These are their seeds. So the structure that holds their seed are called cones. If they are asked which of the following structures, which of the following contains, bear their seeds nakedly or are bear on a structure called cones, that is gymnosperm. All right, this another one. This another one. They are majorly used as ornamental plant. That means they are used for decoration. They don't have leaves. Their leaves are spikes. They are hard. You can see these are not leaves. They are spikes, or let me say hard structures. All right, you can see that from the first and second diagram. So this is another picture to explain them. I'm doing this because most times students don't understand what they are. You can pause the video to take into what are here, what we have here. Now, what are examples of gymnosperm? We have here pines, pines, conifers, ginkgos, cedars or cyads, as some books will call them. I suppose we have that here. I'm trying to see if we can get spelling of that here. Cyad is CYCADS. Ginkgos, GINKOS. Conifers and pines. Those are examples of your gymnosperm. Then we move to angiosperms. Angiosperms have their own structures. I mean, their I beg your pardon, their seeds bear in a structure called fruits or ovary. Ovary becomes fruits, seed becomes, the oval becomes seeds. Let me take that again. In angiosperms, their own seeds are within a structure called fruits. But you need to understand the fact that fruit are formed from ovary, while seeds are formed from ovals. When we get to flower, when you watch my video on flower and fruit, you get to understand what I mean by that. Now, angiosperms are divided into two: the dicots and the monocots. Monocots have some structure, and they have the structural differences. Just look at that in a swift. This is a monocot that has parallel venation. Their leaves have parallel venation. Their roots are made up of, they have adventitious roots or say fibrous roots, but these ones have tap roots. These ones have net venation. All right, I still have another chart that explains that more. So this is a dicot. This is a mango tree, is a dicot. This one you are seeing down here is a monocot. Most of our grasses are monocots because they have parallel venation. This is mango. This next one you're seeing is mango. This dicot. That's called dicot because it has two seeds. If you eat this whole thing and breaks the seed inside, you see two halves. That's what we call it, dicot. Two seed leaves. So you can pause the video here and write these things down. You see the differences. All right. So this is some example of leaves. You will still get to see that when I get to photosynthesis, which is plant nutrition. I want you to take note of, take a look at this. So look at the differences between monocots and dicots. Look at their seeds, the roots, the stem, the leaf, and the flower. So pause the video to put that down. All right. So we are moving on to the last kingdom, which is kingdom Animalia. All right, kingdom Animalia has 9 phyla, arranged from the simplest to the most complex. So kingdom Animalia has 9 phyla. That was a mistake again. The 9 phyla are arranged from the simplest to the most complex. That's Porifera, Cnidaria. The old name used to be Colenterata, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, Annelida, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Arthropoda, Chordata. Now I will say some things. I hope you'll be able to remember. Now, Porifera, I will show you the diagrams of most of them, if not all of them. These are sponges. They are sensile, that means they cannot move. Cnidaria, that's your hydra and jellyfish. We have two classes of that. The polyps, which is cylindrical, that's your hydra. The medusa, which has an umbrella shape, that's your jellyfish. Those two are both Cnidaria. Then we have Platyhelminthes, which is flatworms, generally called flatworms. Example is your tapeworm, your planaria. Then we have your nematoda, which is your Ascaris lumbricoides, which is called roundworm. Generally, these two are both endoparasites in mammals. So this is a roundworm, and this other one called Annelida is a roundworm also, which is in this case called segmented roundworm. Example is your earthworm. These two are both roundworm, but this is not segmented, this is segmented. That's different, but they are both roundworms. All right, and this is example of this one is your earthworm. The mollusca, that's your snail, and octopus. Echinodermata, that is starfish. All right, arthropoda, those have different classes, which I will explain. That explains that. Example of those are your crayfish, scorpion, crab, cockroach, and the likes. Millipede, I will explain that. Then chordata, these ones have other classes under them, talking about fish, mammals, birds, reptiles, and the likes. All right, so let's move on. Now, looking at this, we have okay, you can see Porifera colenterata. This is the old name, like I told you, otherwise called Cnidaria, then Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, and Annelida. What you see here means, when you see acylomate, means coelom means cavity. So when you say acylomate without cavity, that means if you cut them transversely, they don't really have a space. They have a GIT quite alright, but they don't have a cavity that is definite. When we say pseudocoelomate, that means their own cavity is not truly formed. Normally, a coelom is meant to be found within the because let me explain something here. We have three layers. We have some organs are diploplastic, which means they have two layers. Some are triploblastic, that means they have three layers. Now, if something is diploblastic, we only have mesoderm and endoderm. If an organism is triploblastic, we have ecto, meso, and endoderm. All right. Now, any organism that is having coelom, which is called coelomate, we have their cavity within the mesoderm. All right. But although that pseudo, that means false coelom, you have their own coelom between mesoderm and endoderm. All right. So that is what this means. So this means no coelom, no cavity, cavity not properly formed. This means they have cavity. So it means all of these ones have cavity. All right. So you might want to pause them. That means if you slice all of these ones open, you will see they have a cavity within them. Please, so you can pause the video and see that. Now watch. Now under you can see this under chordata, we have vertebrates, which means they have backbone, and some of them have true backbone, like they have cord. That's why you can see that notochord. That's why I call them chordate. But they don't have a serious backbone. They have a vertebral column. That's why you can see they have they are put in different class, and these ones are a bit into out of our context. All right. Now, what our context carries is that we have these five. I call them param, P-A-R-A-M. This is the simplest. This is the simplest. Totally aquatic. This is shortly between aquatic and terrestrial. This is the first to conquer terrestrial, and this one moves on to land, permanently to land. However, we have mammals that stays in water, like your whales. All right, and we have mammals that flies, your bats. So there could be exception to this thing, but broadly speaking, fishes are majorly in the water. These are the Pisces. Now we now have two classes of those: chondrichthysis, which means cartilaginous fishes, osteoitis, which they are what? Bony fishes. Now let me now go back to here, give you a diagram on this. These are your sponges. This is how they look like. Sponges are sensor, they don't move majorly. People might think this is a stone. No, they are not a stone. They are living things that feed. How do I know they feed? They have some form of structures. They have hole through which the things could enter through them. I think another diagram exemplifies that. So see this. This is a sponge. Again, you can see it feeds. Central cavity through which it feeds. Alright, moving on. So after your proliferate, the next one is what? Your nidaria. You can probably rewind your video to see that. So the example of nidaria is, I said we have polyps, which is example of that is hydra, and medusa example of that is jellyfish. So what I have is your hydra. This is how hydra looks like. Now hydra has something in this tentacle called nematocyst. Nematocyst. They use that to sting their prey. Alright, and this is diploblastic, mesoderm, endoderm. So it has two layers, and reproduced by what? Budding. Budding means a part of the organism just cut off. So we are moving on to platyhelminthes. This is your roundworm. Sorry, I mean this is your tapeworm or flatworm. I mean this is a flatworm. Generally, this is your planaria. This is your tapeworm. Alright. This is tapeworm right here. I will please implore you to pause the video and store this diagram. Tapeworm is an endoparasite that sucks the blood of its prey. The prey will have the host, I mean to say, will have digested the food. Then it sucks it through the sucker here to hold on to the prey, to the host by hooks. Then it's majorly found in small intestine, and it's an hermaphrodite. Each of the segments contains some male and female reproductive structures. So look at this next slide. This talks about the life cycle of tapeworm. Tapeworm starts its journey, or the human is the primary host, and it's found in small intestine of human. Bear in mind that any organism that carries the adult form of a parasite is said to be called the primary host. Alright, so we are carrying the adult form. So this adult form here. So let me quickly run through this for you. Let me start from here. A human that has adult form of tapeworm in him or her, you can see that the proglottids is getting bigger. So the most mature one will go out of the human body with the human feces. When that feces comes in contact with the grass, or probably if the person pass out the feces into a place where there is grass around, then cow comes around to feed on it. When cow feeds on it, it goes into the cow as a structure called blood. Sorry, I want to remember the name. It's not coming right now. I cannot remember that really. The larva, when this comes in, yes, I remember now. The matured egg in this is what is laid here. So when the cow eats it, it goes to the cow and becomes the larva, and the larva form is called a bladder worm, and that bladder worm stays in the muscle of the cow. So when this cow is killed, you can see here, larva forming system. When it is killed, it has been killed, then one buys that cow or kills that cow without properly boiling or cooking very well. The person takes it in, and when the person takes it in, the whole cycle, so inside the person becomes an adult, and the whole cycle repeats itself. Alright, the next one is nematoda, which is your roundworm. I didn't put that in the slide here, and that is your Ascaris. And the next one to that is your Annelida, which is your segmented roundworm, which is your earthworm. I'm sorry, I didn't put that in the slide. So after that, the next one we have is your mollusca, which is your snail. This is what we have here. And just pause the video to study that. Then the next to that is your echinodermata, which is a starfish. Questions are highly asked on that. So I move on to arthropoda. So arthropoda have the following classes: class insecta, arachnida, crustacean, myriapoda. Insects are organisms that have, so let's move on to that swiftly. They have 3 pairs of working appendages. Now I want to study this. They have 2 pairs of wings, a pair of wings. Some have 2 pairs, some have 2 pairs. Now this is a pair here, while cockroaches have 2 pairs, but that's not the major factor, because as we have different, we still have some order. We have different order: Lepidoptera, Diptera. Those ones are based on their wings, but I'm not going to go that deep here. But the thing is, insects have 3 pairs of working appendages. Let me go back a bit. All arthropods have exoskeleton. That means they have chitin. All of these ones have exoskeleton, all of them. So it just vary in quantity. So coming back to this, so this has 3 pairs. This is a pair, a pair, a pair. So they have 6 legs, 3 at the right, 3 at the left. They have 3 segments of body: head, thorax, abdomen. Please bear this in mind: head, thorax, abdomen. All right. So these are insects. Majorly they have antennae, compound eyes. All right. Now moving on to the next one after that. Now I want to pause the video here also, that questions are being asked on mosquitoes, majorly on female Anopheles or Anopheles mosquito and Culex. Look at, study their eggs, and these questions are most times asked on how does their adults land. So you should pause the video here. It's self-explanatory. See that this one lies at an angle, this one lies normally. That's Culex. All right. See, their eggs here are laid singly. The larva form here is the eggs here are laid in mass. So this is laid singly, it's laid in mass. You can see that the larva here is lying parallel, this one is lying at an angle. And the larva form of mosquitoes generally are called wriggler. When I get to reproductive, when you watch my video on reproductive, you see what the names for each larva form of organisms. Now also on insect, pause the video here to study the mouth part of organisms. Now this can also be called labbing and sucking insect. Labbing, that's housefly. All right. This is biting and chewing. This is piercing and sucking. This is siphoning or sucking alone. All right. Now the next is, after insecta we have arachnida. Arachnida are organisms that have 4 pairs. You can see a spider is not an insect, it is an arachnida because it has 4 pairs of working appendages: pair 1, pair 2, pair 3, pair 4, and they have something called cephalothorax. That's the combination of the head and the thorax. Cephal refers to the head, so cephalothorax, that's the combination of the head and the thorax together. So pay attention to that. So other example of that is your scorpion. Other example of that is your tick. These ones have 2 pairs. They have 4 pairs of working appendages. Please pay attention to that. And they don't have antennae. And next to that is your crustacean. Bear in mind that I'm not mentioning this in hierarchy of complexity. No, I'm just mentioning that class under arthropoda doesn't follow any of that. You can mention it anyhow. Now this is crustaceans. They have number of legs. They also have cephalothorax. This whole structure is called cephalothorax. Head and thorax fused together, and they have segments. So you can pause that. They also have exoskeleton. Like I told you, all arthropods have exoskeleton. Now the next one we talk about is your myriapoda. Myriapoda is divided into 2. Let me see if I can show you that again to bring you back to that. This one is divided into 2: diplopoda and chilopoda. I didn't write that out here. Chilopoda has, that is your centipede. That was the diagram I showed you, not quite long. Centipede. Let me see. Okay, yes, this is centipede here. Centipede has you can see it's poisonous. It has claws for stinging. Now the next division under Myriapoda is Diplopodà. That is millipede. The difference between centipede and millipede is there are two. The differences are centipede is poisonous while millipede is not. Second is that each segment of centipede has one leg, two appendages, right and left for each segment, while millipede has two. That means for millipede you have 1, 2, 1, 2 per segment. So that's major difference. So that means for every segment in centipede you have 2 appendages. For every segment in millipede you have 4 appendages. That means 2 on the right, 2 on the left. Now I want to call attention to something. There's one that they can ask. They can say which of the following organism is metamerically segmented. Metamerically segmented means that the part of the organism is repeated over and over again. Do you get? Like the part of the organism is repeated. The segments they look alike. That's not metamerically segmented. Alright, moving on. So we are moving now to chordata, which is where we belong as humans, and going from Pisces to to mammals. That explains what complexity. That's why I say para. P Pisces. You can say that. I explained that earlier. So the first one here is your Pisces, which is your fish, and I'm using a bony fish in this case, which is your tilapia fish. You can study this. Pause the video to study that. But let me add some information here. Lateral lines to detect vibration, which makes it to run away from its prey, and it's cold-blooded, and it's oviparous, which means it lays egg. Oviparous, which means it lays egg. POT-UTME, which means it is cold-blooded. Alright, and it uses this swim bladder for buoyancy for it to float. This is amphibia, a frog. In this case, it's also POT-UTME. That means it's cold-blooded. It lays egg, also external fertilization. That's why it does just like fishes. That's Pisces, and we believe that it's a bit advanced than fishes because it can come to land. All right, when you watch my video on respiration, you will notice that it also uses skin to respire for gaseous exchange. The next to that is reptiles. This is your lizard. Other reptiles, we have snakes and the likes. Now this one is very important for us to know. This is a male gamma lizard, taking of the nuchal crest and gular fold. Gular fold is one of the things that it uses to show that it's angry, to explain and to express territoriality, which means it fights against its territory. That's one of them behavioral adaptation. All right, so study this. Basically study it. Is something self-explanatory. All right, so let's move on. So let me show you one behavioral adaptation of Akerele lizard, that when they are angry, this gular fold swells up. That should be seen in the next diagram. Yes, when they are angry, the gular fold swells to show anger and to chase the intruder away. In this case, maybe another male Akerele lizard. Now snake is another example of POT-UTME animal, a reptile, because they bask. That means they come out to get heat. This is another example of reptile. All right, moving on. Then we are now on apes. Apes, these are birds. They are oviparous, they lay egg, but they are warm-blooded and they have feathers. All right, and what I want to say is that to prove evolution is that all what I've mentioned, reptiles have scales on their legs, on their whole body, but there are scales left on the legs of birds, which means that to say that they also came from the same ancestor like reptiles. All right, now one of the things I forgot to mention was that reptiles have 3 chambered hearts. Let me go back a little bit to help you. Fishes, Pisces have 2 chambered hearts. Amphibians have 3 chambered hearts. Reptiles have 4 incompletely formed chambered hearts, incompletely partitioned chambered hearts, while birds, which are aves, have 4 completely formed chambered hearts. Alright, so moving on, coming back to this, I just went back there to explain some things I've forgotten to you. So this is your bird. It lays egg, is warm-blooded, and I'm trying to see if there are other informations I need to add on that. If I do remember, I might probably come back to that. So the last is our mammals, which are the ones that have mammary gland. They have hair on their body, and they have skin. They can sweat, but the peculiar thing about them is that they have mammary gland. That's what they call mammals, and they have hair on their body. Yes, I remember something now. You might be asked that amongst chordates, which of them is the first to step on land? The first to step on land will be your amphibians. They are the first to step on land. But if you ask which of them is the first to conquer dryness, or to stay on land, or to dominate terrestrial habitat, that will be your reptiles. They are the ones that can stay on land longer than amphibians. I want to believe that you've been able to learn 1 or 2 things. It's a long video, even though I try to make it short. If you have questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for your time. You can get some more videos through following. Thank you for your time. I wish you all the best in your examinations. Thank you.